Spartans! What is your profession? This is Sparta!
What is going on, everybody? Before we start, I want to wish everybody a happy Fourth. I don't have any happy Fourth music. I got present music. Here's the start of this. That's the best I got. So if you first time coming or repeating subscriber, please hit the like button, the share, and subscribe. Let me get some lighting fixed here. So there we go. So already we have in the house. Take heed of messages. As always, thank you for dropping by. It's a pleasure. I am dropping the link. I think anybody who wants to join is welcome to join. This is a be interesting one. Take heed if you'd like to join. I think you might want to be in this one. First of all, I hope you guys had a great Fourth. I want to apologize for the background song. My neighbors are going World War V in there with the fireworks. So if you hear it through the mic, I do apologize. There's not much I can do with it. This topic came in my head about a day or two ago. I was thinking about what we're going to talk about this week. So I came up with the kids over the ages, generations. How was kids raised so differently from the 60s, 70s, 80s, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s to now? I think that has a big role how we raise our kids now. Because every generation has their own way of raising them. It's not a bad way. It's a different way. A way that we need to adapt. Some people will sit there and argue their way was better versus the way they is done now. I would say not better, but different. Let me explain. I remember when I was growing up in Greece, I could go play with my best friend who lived a couple blocks away. I could literally cross the street by myself. Maybe not at first. My grandma used to be there for a while. I remember at times when I used to come back at midnight. Yes, at midnight. I used to scream her like, yeah. Miss Grandma in Greek, yeah. Eventually, she's like 5-10 houses into the block. She comes out and like gives me the look, like looked at her, pretend she had a watch. Like, come here, because at first I was not allowed to cross my street. But now, today, if I came home at midnight, people be freaking the fuck out. Simple as that. That is like one of the examples I want to go over with. Toys. Toys is a big one. The toys we grew up back then are different than now. Like action figures, for example, what I grew up on, they were built differently, and you used to play with different. Imagination was more the tool. Now these days, kids are stuck in the house all day long playing PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo Switch. Nothing wrong with that. But what happened using your imagination? Your imagination has a lot to do with it. Oh, sorry, guys. My new haircut is not agreeing with me. You know what? Before we go ahead, I want to hear you guys. What do you guys think of my new look? I thought I'd change things up, freshen it up a little bit. I've been rocking the long beard. I did the long hair. I did the short hair. I did the bald hair. I want your opinions. What you guys think of the new look? I think I might be rocking this for a while. I think it is actually already starting to grow on me. I just want you guys' opinion. What do you guys think about the new look? Leave it in the comments. I am very curious about it. So, as I was saying, it's different. I do believe different generations you are raised from, or makes you the man or the woman you are. Like my grandmother raised me. Like saying somebody walking down the hall and saying good morning to them is proper. Open a door for somebody, woman or man, doesn't matter. Again, it's proper, is manners. I see now these kids throwing a fit because they're not getting what they want. And eventually, they get what they want because they just throw a fit. I think our society has gone a little down drain. I'm not saying 100% this is accurate, but part of it. Hear me out. Be very attentive. When I was in high school, a lot of kids were having kids. If you quote what I just said, a lot of kids had kids. I'm not saying if you're in your 20s or 30s, okay, I understand that. But when you're only 15 or 16, that is a problem. Let's give a shout out to Mariana. She's in the house. Welcome. So, how is a kid going to raise a kid? That is my question. That is, I don't I don't understand that. I just don't understand that. You think by watching other people getting kids at a young age, saying, "Listen, I don't want to be like that." Maybe I'm being a little critical here. Maybe I'm being too harsh. But I do believe. I do apologize again, guys. My dog's freaking out a little bit now. How can you comfortably sit and talk and teach a child when you are not even fully grown yet? And you're still trying to mature and become the person you are. When I was in high school, I'm not the same person I was then and now. Good example. I went through a lot of different phases. And through the phases, like the first phase was, I call it my robot phase, that my parents used to tell me control everything, what to wear, how to do my hair, everything. And I got tired. I fell back. I went into a, not goth, but a metal look. I had the thick ball chain. I used to wear all the heavy metal shirts. Never did the nail thing, none like that. Then I started spiking my hair up, and everything I'm not supposed to do as a Greek, I did. They looked like, what the hell is going on with our son? But that's my way of expressing it. Then I went into a preppy look. Then I went into more wearing a dress pants to school every single day and a dress button down. I don't know why I was doing that. Just a look I just did for a while. Then I got into the really baggy pants. Like I could, if somebody was chasing me, I could not run away. That's how baggy my pants were. But I learned. That is my point. If my mother was, when I say 10 years, maybe 15, older than me, how can she explain that and teach me? Anybody? I'm going to answer that question. She couldn't. She couldn't have these talks. Or my father. None of them. And that is the issue I think we're having. The generation does make it different. The narrative makes a difference. The landscape, if you say. When you're doing anything landscaping, you have to feed the ground, grow it, put water, any of that stuff. And it blooms. But like myself, I'm not a gardener. I'm not this person who knows how to do stuff like that. I'm not going to sit there and say I do. Because I don't. But what I will say and tell you guys, I know enough to understand the science behind it. You put water, you give it sun, and it blooms. Again, I consider myself as a teenager when it comes to gardening. I have no idea about that stuff. I know people who are very more educated than I am. You use special, sprays and all this stuff. I don't know any of that shit. But they know how to bloom the flower correctly. You see where I'm going with this? The cross generation, there were different stuff that we have to keep in mind. The society was different at one point. You had kids to be able to run and play in the middle of the street with their neighborhoods. And the only time they had to come back home is A, you hear your voice, your name get called, or B, the lights are coming on. Or 3, in my opinion, like it was midnight and my best friend's mother's looking at both of us and like say, you guys have to get to bed. It's midnight. So those were their only 3 reasons. I remember you could ride your bike anywhere. Nobody would fuck with you. Imagine a kid riding their bike summer now. I remember again, laws were different degrees. So keep this in mind. Because I know some of you guys are going to freak out. My mother used to give me drachmas, Greek money, go across the street to buy her cigarettes. Imagine do that now. Imagine sending your child to buy cigarettes for you. How much whiplash you're going to get? First of all, they're not going to sell them to you. If they do, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. But let's say, pretend it was no law like that. Let's say the society today was you could buy cigarettes at any age. Forget the law for a minute. But the backlash you're going to get, your child buying cigarettes, is going to be more than anything. Here's a better one. I remember my best friend, his father used to throw parties all the time. And it was one of those days I didn't really want to do anything. I just wanted to sit at home and watch a movie. I hear him, chicken, 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 chicken. I look outside my window. What the hell is that sound? And he's calling my name. Panayoti. My real name. Panayoti. I look out the window like, the fuck you doing? Like, oh, my dad's having a party again. He had literally 2 bags full of beer. Oh, and holy shit. Like, I was more blown when he was able to carry it. Not because it was beer. That was normal for me. Imagine that backlash now to today. In 2024, carrying beer down the street. Imagine that backlash. Yeah. You're going to be crucified probably. Okay, let's get into some of these questions here. If again, guys, anybody wants to join, the link is in the chat. You're more welcome to join us. I can't wait to you guys to give your opinions. I'm looking forward. Please join us. So, how does parent style evolve over the years versus present day and the past? Parent style has changed completely. How to be a parent. Like, this is your new best friend. It's a gizmo you use for everything. Like, you scrolling through everything. Like, what is, that, this, and that. Oh, what you AirTag. That is a better one. You know where your kids are at all times like that. Back then in the day, you had no AirTags. The only way you knew where your kid is was because your neighbors knew where your kid was too. That's one. When you were out in a restaurant, the kid never threw a fit because he didn't have his technology. You had the crayon and a piece of paper, and you just drew. Some has some nice design. You drew color in, but crayons and paper. That's all you had to keep you busy as the adults were talking. You never bother them. You order your food and you be quiet. Some places would have TV and it might turn on some cartoons for you, but most times it was crayons and paper. That's it. Imagine you just give kid a crayon and pencils. He's gonna look at it like pretend it's a crayon. Like, what am I gonna do with this? You wouldn't even know how to do it. Let's use cell phones. Let me ask a scenario here. Does anybody's kids know how to use a dial phone or a rotary phone? I'm just curious. Does any of them know how to use one? That is my curiosity. Or a payphone. If you tell them, ask them a question like, "Do you know what a payphone is?" They're gonna probably look at you like, "What the hell?" They probably have no idea what a payphone is. They probably think it's just something from a movie. Okay, here's the going. What is the difference in discipline actions between older generations and today? Parents and how effect are their methods? So when I got disciplined, I got the sando like most people did. And before I get into it, I gotta talk about this. All you women out there, I don't give a shit who you are, how old you are, how young you are. You guys go through a fucking boot camp. Yes, a fucking boot camp at some point. I don't know when or how. It's probably the secret society of women. You guys are teaching how to throw sandals, chaclatas, batofles, whatever you want to call it. Those are a lethal fucking weapon. So imagine the scenario, guys, for a minute. You did something wrong, whatever it is, and you throw it. Now, that bounces off the bed, hits something else, and next minute it hits you in the mouth. You're like, how the fuck did you get? They're like snipers. These women with the sandals are snipers. That I ain't personally committed at this point. They are snipers. They go through this boot camp, probably a 6 weeks course. They're probably running through mud. They're probably going through rain, snow, and the only weapon they have is his sandals. Sandal is the most dangerous in my generation. The most dangerous weapon you can have. Imagine somebody throwing that at you. Do I need to say more? They're that dangerous. Let's get back on the topic here for a second. Discipline. How do you discipline your kids now? That is a good question. So I got disciplined 2 different ways back in the day. One, it was something taken away from me. Most times I was taking away my video games or TV. That was my go-to usually. The funny thing, I remember in Greece, Greece don't have cable. They have this, you put the antenna on the roof, you turn it here, turn it there. It's like a triangle almost. You're trying to figure out how, there's no rabbit ears, it's a triangle. So my grades were bad. So my grandmother goes, TV's turned off, you have to get your grades up. So after I did my homework, she let me watch for an hour only. She used to pick up the phone and pretend she's calling someone. She was never calling somebody. Yeah, can I get a TV pack on, please? And this is Miss So and So. Yada yada. And like, I fucking believe that shit. But it got me in do what I needed to. Now the other boy was grounding, of course. And once in a while, I'll get the sandal, the backhand, the belt. But imagine if you slapped your kid today, what would happen? Just think about it for a minute. If you were in any kind of situation now, and your kid had to get slapped, and somebody saw that in public, what would happen? Just stop and think about it for a minute. What kind of backlash you're gonna get if you get a cop coming at you? I was watching this short the other day. It was about a show. It was a cop show. That's all I know. So this kid calls the cops on his mother because he disciplined him, and it was disturbing. Yada yada to go. And I know it's a show, but I like where this goes. He goes, "I know my rights." The cop looks at him like, "Oh, okay. What's your right, kid?" She took my property. Really, your property? Okay. He goes. He turns around like, "You get some wrong advice, pal, from some wrong people." He goes, "Next time you call cops on me, I'm taking my big belt off and I'm spanking you myself." And he goes complains his mom hit him in his ass, yada yada. But you get the gist of it. The gist of it is he got disciplined. Can't do that now these days like that. There is no way you can do it. It's not the greatest way to do it. There are other ways to discipline your kids now these days, and I personally don't agree with it. I think that's why some kids are little punks in a way. It gets pretty bad sometimes. I see them. Not always. I know. Talk to some other streams I've done with other people. Some still do the old school way, and I'm proud of them. I give them a lot of respect for that because you're able to do that. I'm not saying every single time it should be physical. No, again, when I say physical, let me clear something up. I'm not saying to the point you have to beat the living shit out of your kid. I'm not saying that. No, I am not. I'm against that completely. But a little spanking on the butt once in a while, it doesn't hurt. Or a little slap on the hand, no, you did something wrong. It's not bad. Just remember, don't overdo it. Now you're taking them and you're just beating the shit out. Yeah, I'm gonna knock your lights out. I'm sorry. I'll go to jail for it. But now you're being a kid for no reason. That is going too far. Anyway, so now this is where technology have changed so much. Everything has changed so much. Think about it. You have YouTube, obviously. You have Facebook. You have the iPhone. The kid doesn't get the newest phone at a certain age is a whole issue. Why? Because he doesn't have the newest phone? Newsflash, kid. iPhone 12, 13, 14, and 15. Not much difference. Same thing as the number different there. But they have to be cool. They have to have the tablets. They have to have this. They have that. We didn't give a shit what we had back then. The only thing we cared is going outside and playing. The old school way. I remember playing street hockey in New York. That was fun back in the day. Let's see. Screen time. Screen time is a big thing to me. I think kids should have a certain amount of time to play video games and watch TV and stuff like. Again, I'm not saying the kids have to be outside at 99 or 100-degree weather and they're sweating ass and they can dehydrate. No, I'm not saying that. But if it's a nice day like today was, let me out for a little bit. Let me out for 2-3 hours and play. And then come home and play some video games then. I'm all for that. But I'm not saying they should be locked in the house. I remember one day it was snowing, and I stopped by a buddy's house, and we were going to the gym together. So I said I'll drive. So he's on my way, dropped him. His wife is yelling at the kids. He gets up, he gets out of the house like, get the fuck outside and play in the snow. I give him a round of applause for that. And that's how it should be. You should be able to go out with your buddies, make some snowballs, and throw. Oh, you know what's even better? I remember carrying shovels down the street, charging somebody $10 to shovel their driveways. That adds up. I remember making like almost $200 one day. It depends, it depends on the driveway too. It was humongous. It's a different story. Who remembers that? Who remembers kids going out? Oh, here's another one. Who remembers the ice cream truck? I used to love hearing the ice cream music. Sometimes it would be stuck in your head. You can't get it out. I'm like, oh man, when you got it stuck in your head, you're stuck in it. There's no way in hell it's coming out of your head. It's one of those things like, oh man. But during a hot summer day, hearing that, it'll be like, oh man, you cannot wait to hear that. Go right. Oh, and my favorite ice cream was too chocolate tacos. And I'm pissed they discontinued that, by the way. And the wrestling ones, those were awesome. I used to love those damn things. They were my favorites. So let's see what's our next one. Here it is. Education. Oh, that's even better. Education was real education, I feel, at the time. Because they would actually sit there and teach you. You have tutors and all that. Now, you get a keyboard and type it away. And figure out where it is. Oop, I just locked myself out. You guys hang out 1 second. I logged myself out of my stuff. Oh man, give me 1 second, guys. Ah. My bad. Give me 1 minute, and we're gonna have the problem fixed. Hopefully, all my questions didn't get lost. Figures. I gotta do all this right now on live. This is what I do. What I get. Really? Come on. Alright, this is an easy fix at this point, I hope. To do. There we go. Click this. Come here. Alright, here we go. Alright. Let's sit here and talk about the boomers for a minute. This is what their key influence were. Post World War II, family oriented, limited technology. Keyword, limited technology. That's one thing I did like about it. The other one I liked about them is they had to figure things out. Definitely after World War II, you had no choice. You had to figure shit out. Because you're still recovering from a big war, financial general. And so, if people who don't know where baby boomers are coming from, it's from 1946 to 1964. Just in case. Generation X. Rise of the double income. Yep. Household. That's where both parents had to work. You could not survive on one parent. Personal computer with a very early age at a time. But work balance. You know what? Work balance is still an issue with a lot of people, myself. Even back then it was an issue. It still is an issue. So I think it is an issue. Millennials. That's me. 1981 to 1996. So the key factors of them is technology, increase of smartphones, and social media. Let's talk about social media for a minute. How has it destroyed the world? How has it destroyed our kids? It has destroyed our kids, very much so, I think. To the point that we don't know how to raise them without social media. Social media has done everything. It's dating, it's bullying, it's talking. Honestly, from you guys know I'm on Facebook. I don't really post a lot. Mostly channel stuff. A couple pictures here and there. But I see some people are glued to it. I see them posting at least 4, 5, 6, 7 times a day. Like, god damn. If it's not my channel stuff, I don't really post anything. Make a couple pictures here and there. Comic Con usually when I go to New York. That's my most biggest post of the year. But damn. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so it also says in my notes is the millennials were just shifting to different divisions of family and generational roles, and that's true. It was divided at the time. Z's 1997 to 2012. The digital technology age is booming. Social media is in a high. Facebook, MySpace, all this stuff is blowing up right now. Now we're getting aware of global issues and justice stuff, and the divide of the families is getting bigger and bigger. I think from my generation and down, the breaking of the families are starting. And like it has changed so much. Let me see where I left off. Give me one second, guys. Okay, Generation Z. I went over that. Now these next two generations. I'm not too familiar with too much, so bear with me. Let me actually do one thing here because it's not cooperating with me. Hmm. That's weird. I have my questions lost here. Ah, here it is. Okay. So those are a few generations. Let me get the rest of them if I can find what I because I lost half of them, like I said. And we have a comic. Give me one second. I'll read it once I get this situated here. All right, let's read the comment really fast so that actually loads. Kids these days, they think it's easy. They have it easy, excuse me. But they think by throwing a fit or tantrum, and they can get what they want. If a parent didn't give them what they want, the, their kids took parents bad. And I agree with that. It looks like Black David's gonna bail on us. He can't make it. Hang on, let me see what he says. So, okay, I want to address this comment a little bit. So, how I address this correctly? Yes, kids do have it easy. They throw their fits, the tantrum, and they do get what they want. I'm not saying all parents. I'm not saying I don't. I know CQ, King, and some other of my friends, they are raising the kids correctly. They earn what they get. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying the majority. I'm saying maybe, let's say 10% for argument's sake. Now, like she says here, if parents don't give them what they want, the parents are the bad guys. And it shouldn't be bad or good. It should be like, listen, I am the parent. End of story. Is no if or buts. So that's what it is. So let's get back to where I left off before my. I can't get that generation thing back. Let me see if I can look it up at least. Okay, let's see. And it also depends which where you get your research from. Every generation is a little different. The way this is broken down. Let's see. Hmm. Oh yeah, alpha. Supposed to be the future is the current generation. I think there's one more coming right now too. It's obviously technology, educate, they're involved with education. Main is social media. They're actually really big in health and fitness, culture shipments, future job. That thing with new generation is they're not going to take less anymore. Like we were more like, oh, we need a job, we have to get a job, no matter what. Boom, right in there, no questions asked. So, guys, anybody wants to jump in? I have the link in the chat. You're more welcome to join us tonight. I have it up there for a reason. Please join us. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you guys don't want to be on camera, that's fine. Just let me see your face at first, and you can just talk. I can see. As long as the mic's on, that's all I care about. Let's see, because I got my nose finally back. Let's see where I left off. So this one is social experimentation almost. The norm to now. Being around all that stuff, it was great. And it's expose yourself out and be socialized is a huge thing of just being a human being, in my opinion. Not behind a keyboard and typing away. And that is or through a text. And that it makes it worse, in my personal opinion. And you have to be in front of somebody to talk. I don't care. If not, at least hearing the voice. Sometimes I hear people saying to me, they haven't never really spoken on the phone to their girlfriends. They usually just text. I like texting just for fast things. 1, 2, 3. If I want a full conversation, you need to be on a phone or in person or even a video chat. Excuse me. So, yeah, I think we're disconnected a little bit. As much as we're connected, we're more disconnected with each other because we have the texting, the messengers, the WhatsApp, the connection. You hear someone's voice, how they react. It's not the same anymore. Let's see where we at. The cost of living, and that is a big thing because the cost of living has changed because of inflation and everything. But when it cost of living changes, your line of work needs to change, or how many hours you work. Maybe you have 2 jobs. Maybe as a parent, you don't have time to be around your kid, and that hurts your child overall. I know it's not your fault. It's nobody's fault. It is what it is. But that is a factor. If you're working, like my father worked crazy hours, I never saw him home. I'm not saying it's his fault, but that plays a role. Again, it's nobody's fault. It's part of life. That one's I will give everybody a pass on. Education and careers. That is goes with the first one. Okay, as the kids raising, you want to put them in definitely a good line of work, and the education has a big part of it. If you're, let's say, a mechanic and you're not making barely ends meet and you have to work crazy hours just to get by, but you can get into programming and making, let's say, 150,000 a year. You send him up for success, not failure. That's what you want to do. Again, obviously, you want to make him happy, whatever he wants to do. Don't force him to do something he doesn't want to, but try to guide him into the right direction. Impact with technology. How has the advantage of our technology into everyday life has affect our child? It affects everything. Think about it. I don't see a kid without some type of smartphone or AirPods or tablet. What happened in the old days? Like, you literally just had to walk down the street, nothing plugged in your ears to see what's going on in the world. Or going to the library and actually looking at the research in the old school paper and book method versus just Googling it. Or grabbing your iPhone, going to one of the AI apps and hope for the best. That's not the way to do it, unfortunately. Technology is great. I love it. Obviously, I'm a YouTuber. I do stuff like this. I love it. But I know when to disconnect myself. These kids don't know when to disconnect. When it's time to just go for a walk or go play ball or shoot a basket. A few of them do, but not as much. Even at the gym. Look around the gym next time. Do me a favor. Just look around. Sorry about that. Just do me a favor. When you're at the gym next time, just look around. How many kids or adults are sitting down doing this to the whole gym? Doing their sets. How about you put phone away for at least 2 hours and work out without. Yes, I understand you might use it for a note or something like that. Oh, holy cow. Look who jumped in. Lady Novoa, as always, is supported and loved. I give you a big salute and happy 4th to you too. Hope you find some fireworks over there. But seriously, when have you not put your phone down? When the last time your kid put the phone down, says, you know what? I don't need this fucking thing. Let me go outside and break a fucking window because I'm playing ball by accident. Or let me have my neighbor scream at you because I ran across the yard and he hates that. Anything like that. That's what she says. Yeah. No, look. I'm gonna ask the question again. I asked earlier. What do you guys think about the new look? Give me your opinions. Give me some feedback. Doing something different. Change it up a lot. I like changing up. I had the long beard, long hair. I done the short, bald head, long beard, short beard, whatever. Let's say. What she says. Nope, don't want neither. Quiet night for me. No allowed it this year. Nope. What, you don't like fireworks? Shit. That's the best part about 4th of July in summer. Blowing some fireworks up. Okay, let's get back to this. To see comments. Where was I? Okay, let's talk about the gym for a minute here. We were into it. Like, people don't put phone. They're so all about going to the gym now these days, these kids. Because obesity isn't our best. All right, let me see what she says before I get too ahead of myself. It's a better for you. Family is cleaner look. And she follows up with, not when you weren't feeling it well, you went peace. Yeah, I get it. If it's not up for you, I get it. Fireworks is not for everybody. Sometimes you just need peace and quiet. put a movie on, put some music on, and chill. Um, but gym. These kids are really into the gym now, more than anybody. Let's see what last thing she says. Sorry for interrupting the live. I'm going into timeout. No, you never interrupt. You're welcome to come up. I don't care. Fuck you. Keep the camera off. Just put your mic on. I'd love to have somebody have a conversation about this. Different generation kids. So, and I do have the link in the comments if you like to. Again, no pressure. If you want to come up and have a conversation, let's go for it. So these kids are all about working out, fitness, doing this, doing that. But again, they cannot put their fucking technology down. Okay, I'll give you one part of it. Music. You need your phone for music. Okay, I'll give you that. But do you have to literally take it out of your pocket every time you do a set and text somebody or whatever you're doing? Okay, you might say to me, Pete, you know what? Like I said before, I might recording my weight. How much weight I'm doing or how many reps I did, my workout, a log. Okay, I'll let you go on that one. You do the dialogue too. Okay, my fitness pal. Okay, I'll let you go. Two there. There's 2 out of 3. 2, I'll give you. But are you really doing that every set? Are you really doing it every time you take your phone out? I bet you half times you're texting somebody. Your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your husband, your wife, whatever. But not every single time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it is what it is. So, what is your guys' opinions? You think this technology, this generation is doomed? I hear this from every generation. Is the generation is doomed. That generation is doomed. So, let me respond to him. And that's the thing. It's not every generation, unfortunately. So yeah, it is what it is. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. Like, is it every generation? I think every year, every generation is one step worse than the other. But it is what it is. So how can we fix it? That's we talked about the problems now. What about the solution? How about we guide them? How about we take the phones away from them? Say, you know what? Go outside and play for an hour. You know what? You're at the gym. Put your phone away for a minute and actually socialize as you're working out instead. And work out. How about you go to to the park and not take your phone out? How about you and working out? Yeah. Nobody thinks of that problem. How about we stay off social media for a while and just enjoy life? Plug in a movie. Go to the movies. Now you have all these streamings. I bet you a lot of us don't even go to the movies anymore because you can just watch it on a live stream. What's the point? What is the point of going to the movies? And you just go on Max or Netflix or Hulu and you get it right there in your fingerprints. So, true facts here. I went to see a movie, what was it, a couple weeks ago? Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Bad Boys, can't remember which one it was, Bad Boys Forever. So, we have somebody in the background. So, you're welcome. And what is going on, you? You're on the a lot. She dropped. So went to the movies. Saw Bad Boys, the new one. One thing I realized there was it was empty. But I know when people try to just sneak their phones out and just What? No. Put the fucking phone away. Um, Before that, it was years before I saw a movie at a theater because of COVID and everything. But I did see a comedian, and the comedian said, "Let me get her on here." All right, you're on the air with us. What is going on, young lady?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear nice and clear.
Hey, how you doing? Like the look?
Oh, thank you. Like the new freshness,
Yep. What made you switch it up?
a change. I believe in life. You need to keep changing things around.
There you go. I
And
was
I did.
listening in for a little bit before I came on. I didn't want to come up here blindsided.
No, you good.
So you was talking about raising kids across generations.
Correct. So, what is
Um,
your opinion about that?
well, first let's start with the generations. Every generation is different. How they raise their children, right? You see some generation don't believe in um discipline like how other people believe in discipline. Like they do it different. To me, I believe you should talk to a child first before you try to put your hands on them.
I agree
You
with that.
know, I got whippings growing up, but I didn't get too many of them. I learned my lesson. You know what I'm saying? So you just gotta train a child so when they get older, it will never depart them, and they will know how to live and go by in life how you train them when they start young. You can't start later and expect them to be like, oh, no, 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 no. Then they're gonna have an attitude and stuff like, fuck you, mom, dad. But I always believe no matter who your parents are, they'll never disrespect them. Never disrespect them. They brought you into this world, no matter what they do and who they are. You don't have to like deal with them like that, but don't disrespect them.
I totally agree. Listen, my mother. I don't know if you saw the episode me and Paul did when my mother came on the air with us. Me and my mother are a little unorthodox, in better terms. We joke around, curse each other, but again, it's all fun and joke. But when it comes down serious, when she used to discipline me, I never curse at her. None of that. It's like yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. But my relationship with my mother is so unique, if that makes sense. Does it?
Yeah, it is. My mama's 82 and I'm still scared of that lady.
So you know what I'm
I
talking
don't
about. That
know. Yeah, I'm still scared of her. But in the black, you know, generation, you will hear a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, I ain't gonna talk back to my mom. But, no disrespect versus a white out of any other generations. I say black and white. I seen a white kid talk back to his mom, curse her out, didn't want to listen or anything. And we just look at him like, wow. Then you see him on the leash the next day. You be like, what the hell is going on? Kids, hey. But shout out to the ones out there who is, raising their kids and taking the time out to teach them things in life and not just let them raise themselves and figure it out in the street. Teach them. Shout out to those parents.
like my buddy, the actor King Smith. I have given that guy so much credit where he raised his daughter. His daughter is the most politest young lady I ever met, smartest young lady I ever met. You can talk, she's talking to us like she's my age. I looked at her like, how old are you?
How old is she?
She's still a teenager. I'm trying to remember how old is she exactly. She's 16 or 17. I can't remember exactly, to be honest with you. But the way he raised her is so good. And he's co parenting, 1 weekend on his vows, 1 weekend on his ex wife's. They make it work. And the way they made it work too, I think this is a big factor too. Is their house is only a block away from each other, so she can literally walk in distance if anything ever happens.
Wow.
I think he did that on purpose. I don't know that for a fact, but if he did do it on purpose, that's a great idea too. But even
Yeah.
after his divorce, the co-parent was still on point with them. There was no like, "Hey, ask your father or ask your mother or go behind your mother's back or behind." You know what I'm saying?
I agree. But shout out to him for moving close to his child. Or if she did that, you know, if she did that, kudos to her, because not too many women would do that. Versus a man will move closer to the child. You know what I mean?
Oh, I totally agree with you because I seen it go good and bad. That's why I hold off on having
Right.
kids yet because I don't want that drama in my life, if that makes sense. And I want my kid raised correctly. And then people who are raised like, and I want to read this comment before we move too ahead. Mariana says, this generation is too advanced of technology and social media. Kids need a limit, and I agree on that too. I'm not against technology. I love it, but they do need a point like say, hey, go outside and have fun. Go kick the ball around, break a couple windows by accident, and have fun. There's nothing wrong with that. But kids are so glued on their tablets and their screens. I think that's one reason
Right.
why we have obesity so bad right now. What's your opinion?
Yeah. Well, what part on what part? The obesity part or the other?
A little bit of everything.
No, I'm just playing. I'm sorry, I'm in the dark, but that's why I had the camera off. But
You can keep if you don't feel comfortable with the camera on, it's fine. You can keep it off. It's okay.
I don't care. It can be on or off. I was just picking some up, and then I turned it on accident. So I seen it on. I was like, so I just put it off. But I turned it back off. Um, First off, with obesity, we have to stop letting our kids choose their meals. Like when you growing up, and I don't know if you had your mom and dad in the same household. Hey, Mr. B times seven.
What's
I don't
good?
know.
Before we move
I
on, let's
don't
give
know.
Mr. President his theme song.
Man, that's what's up.
What's going, my brother?
It's all good. I see you work even on the holiday, so hey, I give you a drop in for a minute.
All right, hey, dude, I did a 8 hour shift and I'm still streaming, so no days off here.
There you
But
go.
Wow.
let's finish with ladies, and I'll have your opinion next. Go ahead, lady.
Oh, you had to work today and now you're streaming? That's a lot of
Yeah,
work. Anyways, like I was saying about the obesity, in most households, if you have your mom and dad, mom will cook for dad and you eat whatever mom cook.
correct.
You don't tell mom, oh, I want to eat this, or I'm not going to eat that. In most households, if you don't eat what mom cook, you're not going to eat. You're going to be hungry. I
That's
don't know if
facts.
that would happen in your household, but in my household, it happened. And we gotta stop letting our kids be picky with the food because they grow up like that. And then you wonder why they not eating right. And
Mm-hmm.
then when you see them getting big and you not trying to exercise them and they just gaining so much weight, then who fault is that? The parent or the child? It's the
That's a
parent
good point.
because you're not even putting effort and trying to put them in the sports, take them out to the park to run around, doing some active things because they have to stay active because a child will eat snacks and gain weight and think it and feel comfortable and not see no problem until it gets uncomfortable. I was one, but it wasn't because I was eating. It's because I had a medical condition. When I found out, I dropped that weight when they gave me the medicine. I didn't have to lose like go exercise and lose no weight. I just started gaining weight, didn't know what was going on, and I just thought I was just a kid. That's just because I was eating candy and all that stuff. But I have found out, no, it wasn't because of that. Because now that I'm diagnosed, I can eat and won't gain versus I was when I was younger. You see the difference? So yeah. But hey, Mr. B, what you think?
On what now? I'm jumping in. I'm just like double dutch. So I'm trying
So
to jump
When
in
you
on
was
the.
young, did you choose your meals growing up, or did you eat whatever mama cooked? Or did you stay in the house with your dad and whatever she made dad, you have to eat it or you won't eat? Like,
Um,
yeah, obesity kids, what you think
it's
of that?
look, it's different depending on the time period you're talking about. I mean, I grew up very poor, so what we had to eat oftentimes wasn't necessarily the ideal. You ate what was available. That could be toasted bread with mayo and McCormick seasoned salt on it. Sometimes it was those leftover chicken livers and giblets that my mom would stack in the freezer when we knew that the chicken was out. So you didn't have a lot of choice a lot of times. I mean, just to have like some deli ham, to have like a ham sandwich, that was like considered like a plus. And that was pretty much my existence until I was about 13, 13 going on 14. So then at that point I lived with my dad. And my dad, he was pretty, he was a very good cook. So, you never really complained about what he would make. And he would ask us, what do you guys want to, eat or whatever. So, food was never an issue when I started living with him at that age. So it just depends on the time period. But I don't think we ever had you eat what I think I went through that with my mom because again, it would be like, you'd be eating some rice with some chicken giblets or whatever. And that'd be your whole meal for the week. So, yeah, if as a kid, you would sort of, whine and complain about, what you had, but that's all you had. So, I had, we didn't have a choice in the matter. But, I wasn't necessarily always mature enough to understand that. But when I got with my dad, I don't think I ever had to ever worry about what I was going to eat, what I wanted to eat, or whatever. It was like, it was totally different rules and circumstances when I went to live with him. Like I said, it depends on the time period you're referring to.
So, Paul, let me ask you this
So you
question.
ate it. Okay, go ahead.
No, 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 go
Sorry.
ahead. Nova, go ahead. You go
So
first.
you ate more at your dad's than your mom's?
Well, mind you, I was really only with my dad until you talking about the college from age 14 through my college years and whatnot. I got my own place at 26. So, but again, even with my dad, there really wasn't a lot of issue over food, or he wasn't so dogmatic on what we had or whatever. And he would always make good food because, like I say, he was a pretty good cook. And again, the situation was a lot easier, at least financially there. And that's which isn't to say we were that well off, but again, food wasn't an issue. But yeah, the first few years though, yeah, I was with my mom. We kind of have almost like a gypsy lifestyle, moving from place to place, and there were just circumstances where if you had something like if I got like a McDonald's hamburger or something like that, or a Big Mac or something, that was like that was a treat. But again, you didn't have a lot of options, and sometimes the only option you had, like I said, was the bread mayo sandwiches or the crackers or whatever she could get out, or what the food stamps would buy back then, or I mean, yeah, man, we went through all that.
I had asked because your dad seemed well off. I'm like, he didn't help your mom with the food for you,
Now
so you
we
didn't.
were. I mean, there was a time we were in totally different states. So I mean, like there's a whole story behind that.
Right.
But it really wasn't until, like I said, about 14 or so. I think my parents, they tried sort of a mock reconciliation, and that didn't really go too well. And there were some other circumstances where my mom had to be institutionalized. And so at that point, then I think it was my older sister who really kind of got my dad, got under his butt and said, "Look, you got a son who's basically in peril, and you better come in and give him a home," because he basically raised or he took care of all my other siblings at one point. So it was like when my parents really split, this was like maybe 74, 73, 70. Well, really it was 70, but I moved back, both my parents from the South. So I moved back down South with my mom. This is around 73, 74. And, but there was a point where all of my other siblings, they moved back up north, and my dad set up a home for them. So I was basically with my mom the whole time, and my other siblings were with my dad. So through their teenage years, they basically lived with my dad. And it just came to a point where it's like, my older sister, she was like, "Look, you got one more, and mom can't handle this and whatnot, and she's in this situation, so you need to, step up and be there for him." He had his own demons he had to deal with, during that time as well. But he stepped up, and so it was him, my brother, was living. So it was just the three of us for that number of years. My brother, this was like 84. My brother got married in 88. And like I said, I was there, throughout, I think, until 96, when I got my my own place and moved out. So yeah, so it was definitely you know kind of tumultuous there, period of time. But no, but he wasn't well off. And again, just the nature of their own demons and situations they had to deal with. They didn't do well when they were together at that time.
Hmm. So, Paul, let me ask you this question. When the title of the show tonight is raising kids across different generations,
Mhm.
when you hear that, what comes to your mind?
Uh, Man, you really have to get some context to that. I mean, certainly every generation is going to blame the previous generation for how they turned out, good, bad, or indifferent. So, definitely, I think there was an old school mentality, my way or the highway sort of thing. I think certainly uh, from Gen X on, I think parents try to be a little bit more understanding as far as how to go about raising kids. Um, so I think there's been a change there. Again, some people argue for the worse. But I think if you go back then, it's like there's always going to be advantages and disadvantages. So again, the quote unquote old school, so to speak, was one way of doing it. You know, it had, like I said, advantages and disadvantages to it. I think especially in the black community, I think there was a lot more corporal punishments used and whatnot. I think almost to excess. And for people who say that corporal punishment is the way to go, look, our prisons are full of guys who had corporal punishment. So I think that just that in and of itself as the main way of discipline rather than being disciplined, there's a difference between the two. Um, I think that leads to the outcomes that are not good long term. And but as far as today, do kids get away with too much today? I mean, people can make arguments about that, but I think it really depends on the communities that you come to. I think economics has a lot to do with these outcomes that we're talking about, or the environments that the kids are growing up in. Because if you're growing up in an environment that's dangerous or whatnot, you may have to be a bit more stern in terms of how you raise them or whatnot. Versus, if you're in a neighborhood that's has folks of similar values and where there's sort of like almost a communal effort in raising kids,
Mm-hmm.
then you can take some more liberties there as well. So I'm not one of these guys who goes around. I don't glamorize or romanticize the past. Like, oh yeah, well back in the day, we used to do this, this, and that. And I'm not necessarily so in love with, the way I see, sometimes kids acting out now or the advantages the kids take now. But I think,
Right.
parenting in general, I don't think there's a rule book or guidebook to this. I've seen a variety of different parental methods that seem to have well-adjusted children. And then you also have to look at the individual. Because I've seen, um, I'm sure, lady, you've seen this too. I've seen PK kids turn out the worst, and I've seen kids who came from seemingly poor situations turn out pretty good in spite of the circumstances.
Like yourself.
So a lot of this stuff you have to look at as the individual as well. You know, like I said, but I don't know if there's some general principles you might want to follow, but as far as determining outcomes, um, that's I think is a little bit more difficult. So, um,
Let me ask this
yeah.
question for both of you. How would you explain the difference, the evolution of parenting over the years?
Well, certainly less dogmatic. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's less again corporal punishment as being the go to in matters. I think rather than using necessarily a fear based style of parenting, I think people folks are trying to have again a bit more understanding. Again, there were things that we didn't necessarily know about when it comes to kids. The ADHD and a lot of the dyslexias and a lot of those things that people didn't know about. Back then it was like, oh, you just lazy. You better wake up or I'll beat it into you or something like that. It just that wasn't like the first option all the time, just to go to the belt to solve a problem or to address a problem, or you didn't walk around necessarily so much in fear of your parents. And I think for a lot of us who came from that, I think we just wanted something a little bit different. So, yeah, having more understanding, being able to talk through things, helping your kids to think rather than telling them what to think, I think is also important because I think if you're just going to go with just dictation and dogma, I don't know if you necessarily raise or produce um, uh, you know highly intelligent individuals. I think part of really if you want to prepare someone for a generation you give them scenarios, you give them, give them some wisdom, you give them some ways that in terms of to handle things. Some things they have to figure out on their own. So I think I think newer methods, I think, try to have some better understanding of your kid and then act accordingly rather than having this cookie cutter approach where everyone just kind of walks in fear of you. So I think, it's definitely more of a less of a fear-based model and more of an understanding and respect model. But the whole idea of fear, I think that's, certainly a big difference between methods of old and methods today.
Now, before my next question, just hang on that thought because it follows up into my next question.
Sure.
Lady, you're up next.
First off, I wish I had the clap button because he said it well. He added on to what I said because I was saying in the beginning, talk to him first before the corporate punishment comes in. Before you put your hands on him, talk to him first because, like he said, we learning so much. A lot of people didn't know about ADD, whatever, ADHD, and they used to beat the kid because the kid was so wild. They didn't know how to handle them. And they didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't ask for help or whatever. So he said everything just right. Thank you, Mr. Meek, time seven,
No problem.
president. So look,
So my
look,
next
look,
question
look.
was gonna
See, it's too
be
hot, so I got my thing off. So I'm gonna salute you.
I
Salute.
appreciate you. Thank you so much.
okay. You mentioned corporal punishment, the different styles of parenting and discipline. Like you had one way and your wife had a different way. I assume, correct?
Um, Not too different, but
Mm-hmm.
mine might have been exacerbated by the fact that, and again, only my mom beat me corporate. Like I said, I wasn't with my dad to do that. And by the time we got together, if there was going to be any something physical, it was going to be fists, and not belts or anything else. At that point, or I'd just be put out. So that was an issue. But as far as like I said, it was a little bit different because again, she was dealing with stuff, so, or just the way they did things. It was you grabbed anything, so it was a belt, it was an extension cord, it was a switch, it was a shoe or a
Sandal.
It
paddle,
was whatever. It was
it was
whatever.
whatever they could grab onto to get you. But it was just, and a lot of times again, it was done out of a reaction to something rather than again trying to get understanding in terms of what happened before you did it. It was just like a reaction sort of thing.
In
And
love.
yeah, yeah. So,
What about you,
so,
lady?
so mhm.
What you
She there?
say?
Now you can go ahead if you want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
respond.
it's your turn.
No, you said everything. That's why I was adding with you in love. So you on fire. You saying everything. See, you go before me. I can't clean it up
All
after you.
right, I have a side note here for a second.
Right.
I mentioned it earlier in this round. I know you guys didn't catch it. So I don't care if you're Spanish. I don't care if you're Greek, black, green, orange, whatever. Every woman goes through a special boot camp. Hear me out before you say anything. They teach you how to throw this sandal in a specific way, like a sniper almost. So
Mm.
you cross the room, and they chuck it. It bounces off of the cabinet, it hits you over the head. I'm like, how the fuck did you get me? Like every single time she threw that sandal, it's not if she's gonna get you, she will get you.
Mm.
Every single time. It's a boot camp they go through. Every woman goes through it before it becomes a mother.
And don't duck.
Well,
What's up?
it's better than it's better than
Don't duck.
shurikens. So you're fortunate.
If you duck, you're in some more trouble.
You
Yeah.
see, I ducked and it got hit on the cabin and it hit me in the back of my head. Like I remember ducking. I looked at her
Yeah.
and I laughed and I go, boop. I'm like, I can't win with that sandal. Cannot win with that
Yeah,
sandal. It's
man.
an evil thing. And if
Yeah.
it's a leather rubber one, ooh, that's even more painful than anything.
Mm.
So anyway, let's get to it.
Look, how
Because
tall are you when you're in trouble?
you're not that tall. I don't care
Yeah.
how. If you even my mother's like right about here to me. All right. When she's even when I was younger and she's like you might be taller, but she's just grabbing my ear. Now you're my height. Get me down really fast.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I was
technology.
1 foot.
I'm sorry.
I was 1 foot. I was 1 foot. How tall are you right now?
I'm 5'8".
Okay, if your mom was really like in your face as a teenager, you would be what, 1 foot? You'll be
Something like
so
that.
scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was under there too.
Yeah.
I go back.
Listen.
Right.
I don't care how tall you are. If your
This is
mother
funny.
disciplines you, you become literally the
Yes.
smallest person in the room.
And they would tell you, especially when you big, they was like, I don't care how big you think you is, I will not give your ass down. Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, technology and screen time. Who want to take this first?
Again, in what context?
Okay,
What
let
do
me
you
give you the
mean?
whole thing. Go ahead.
No, I'm
No,
asking
what do you
you in what
mean?
context. You
Uh,
said technology and screen time. So in what in regards
parenting.
to what?
Parenting. Like, here's a question I have wrote down. How do parentings from different generations manage the kids or child explore, to explore technology and screen time for long term impact?
Yeah, I don't think a child needs to be on social media um
I agree.
under a teenage, age. And as a teenager, it should be limited and should be how you said restricted by.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, I don't know if I sent this to you, Mr. B, on IG when I sent it to a lot of people about on Father's Day. The girl was like, I want to see my dad a song for Father's Day. So she went on Google or whatever and looked up a Father's Day song, right? And when she played it, and she started singing, she's like, I'm calling you daddy, daddy. The dad was like, "Whoa!" He's like, wait. And that daughter was like, sister was looking at her like, that's not appropriate. She was like, he was like, honey, I am your daddy, but this is not the song. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? He said, come here, let me see your thing. Let me see what else you've been looking at. Stuff like that. It was restricted.
Yeah.
'Cause you don't know what your child is looking at. You
Yeah.
can get into the porn. All you gotta do is say you are 21. They gonna ask you if you're 20. They ain't gonna ask you for no ID online. There's so much on there
Right.
that you can find out. You want to know what's what? Go in and Google it. If you don't want your child to know, teach your child at home first, or the streets will. And you know that, Mr. B, especially in the hood. If you don't teach your child at home, besides being book smart and street smart, in our community, we have to do that because we go through things that other people don't go through, but some cultures go through too, like the brown skins, you know what I'm saying, who is not
Mm.
considered as black, what the police offer. We have
Right.
to learn new technique, you know what I'm saying, versus just growing up as a regular kid. You gotta teach these kids some things. And you have to make sure they are mature with it because if they immature with it, it ain't gonna go right. You can't teach no immature child how to no stable conversation. That's very important if they immature. You have to make sure that they're not on that level. Go, Mr. B. I already know you're gonna add them for
Um,
president.
as far as what was you said screen time, or what was the first one you mentioned?
The screen time and technology.
Yeah, tech. I'm not necessarily opposed to the tech. I love the tech overall. I think it's been a good look. Back in the day, we didn't have tech. We had coloring books, right? Or we had met comic books, or we had some other distraction. And people want to say that parents were so much more involved. I don't know about that because especially if you had working parents, if your dad was working a lot or whatever, it's not like they saw you a lot. So a lot of times you had to keep yourself entertained, or if you grew up in the day when you played outside all day or whatever, it wasn't like your parents were hovering over you or knowing what you were doing or what you were getting into back then. So I'm not necessarily opposed to the tech as much as some other people are. But I would say social media might be particular tech or particular form of tech that I think folks need to be a little bit more mindful of in terms again because you don't know the places that your kids can go into. But again, back in the day, Again, it was like, you go out, be home by 7, or be home by sundown or whatever. You don't know where they went, what places they frequented, or whatnot. So I don't think things are necessarily that much different than back in the day. But I think social media in particular, it can make you um, think you're something that you're not. It obviously gets you into a lot more places that are not necessarily restricted, that you're not. I mean, we all know about, getting corn and all that. There's a lot of things that you can get out there that, again, that's not age appropriate. Whereas even back then, I mean, you couldn't go into the strip club or the bar or whatever. You couldn't get in there. But I think with a lot of the tech, you can. So I think some things like that, I think it does require some monitoring up to a certain age. But even then, again, me personally, I got to a point where I wasn't checking my girl's social media. Like it was like I was my daughter. She was like she sent something from Instagram, and I accepted it or whatever. And then by mistake, I might have hit friend me or something like that. Um, and then she said, "Oh, you didn't reply to my request to follow you." And I don't mind them if they want to follow me on Instagram or any of my social media platforms. I don't mind. I don't I think I keep it pretty clean out there. But you know, I unfollowed her because again, I think that they get to an age. I said my youngest one is 21, so I think it gets to a point where I think uh, they need a little bit of privacy to an extent. I mean, plus, they got aunties, they got cousins who follow them, or whatever. So again, if something was going down that that I had to be aware of, if it was that bad, then it would get to me if need be. Now I've only recall I think maybe one incident. This is I think when my youngest, I think she might have been 12 or 13. She was on there, and she got into it with a friend, close friend of hers, but just her temper sometimes got the best of her back then, and they just had an exchange. So we had to go over to the house, and she had to apologize and all that kind of stuff, and they were besties, shortly thereafter. And so we had to really monitor her. In her case, we had to monitor that situation for a while until she got more mature with it. But generally speaking, I handle this thing kind of like individually, knowing my kids and whatnot. But I think it gets to a certain point where I think kids, if you did the work, especially early on, then I think they deserve to kind of have their own space to express themselves. And I don't necessarily need to be all. I figure my dog has an Instagram page, and so sometimes I can see kind of what they're doing through them because everyone follows my dog. But outside of that, I don't need to be all in. My two oldest daughters, they have boyfriends. I don't need to see them smushing. I don't need to see any of those cutesy pictures. I don't need to see them at the beach. I don't, just certain, that let them kind of have their space in that regard. But for younger kids, yeah, I think you need to monitor stuff. And I just happen my kids kind of grew up, you know, you can almost say at the right time because 10 years ago, a lot of that stuff was just kind of getting on. Yeah, you had Facebook, and you had what was the one before that? Not
MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace and all that, but they weren't really headlog into that. But I think certainly Instagram and TikTok, I think those came a little bit later, and hopefully by that time, I think they were a little bit more mature to be able to handle that environment and space a little bit better than if let's say if they were 10 or 12 years old now, and if I had to deal with that, yeah, I may have to have a few more safety protocols, a bit more monitoring, or saying no, you can't have these apps, download these apps, or put some controls in their phones where they couldn't get access to that stuff. So I think for me, I may have dodged a bullet, which is why I don't know if I'm necessarily the best person to talk about that. But so there's a
It
balance. I think
makes
technology,
sense.
yeah, yeah.
It
You
makes
know,
sense.
I love the find me function for sure. That helps us a lot. And so it's because if I'm like waiting for them, if I got to pick them up late from somewhere, they're coming on the train or whatever, knowing where they are, how far they're out, certain things, it's like, I wonder if what's the name's home. Oh, and then I can look at my phone and say, oh yeah, she's home. And so just certain things that, helps. I mean, I love the FaceTime through Apple, when we can all kind of get on if we need to. So again, I think there's positives to tech. You do need to have some cautions and whatnot. But again, I'm not one of these people that, is like anti-tech or is like, yeah, you need, this tech is destroying everything. I think for a
I
lot of
won't
people, it's been a
say
it's been a it's been a value add.
I won't say tech destroys thing. I don't. I just think kids shouldn't be shove their heads in the tech all day long, and that's it. You know what I'm saying?
I
Hmm.
agree.
Yeah.
Because you hear about high school girls sending their naked nude pictures
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Boy,
groups,
there's
you
a
know,
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of
not
that, and then
everyone.
yeah, and then you have sort of uh, off the grid social media platforms, or people creating private chat rooms and whatnot that are not following, I guess, those kind of streams as well.
Mm.
So, but again, just like again, 50 years ago or 40 years ago when none of the stuff was available, your kids would be out. You don't know if they were out there playing house. You don't know if they were at someone's house with the red light on in the basement. You just you're just praying that they got home every night, and that they weren't that they came home harm free. I mean, that was the thing that really. I mean, now, like I said, my kids are out past a certain time. I can look them up and see where you at. I can text them, or I can just find, like I said, the Find Me app or
Even
whatever. I
if
can
kids
find
were
them.
younger, you could like throw an air tags on the keys or their book bag or something. So
Well, AirTags. I think when did AirTags come out? About 7 years ago. So,
no, 2 3 years tops.
oh, it's right. So I'm saying you could do that stuff now to better track your
Yes.
kids. Absolutely. But I'm saying back then you didn't have anything to
Oh,
track
I
your
totally
kids
agree.
with.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
understand.
So
I'm not
yeah,
arguing that fact. I'm just saying
yeah,
now you could throw an air tag in their book bag or in their wallet
yeah,
or on the
yeah,
keys, and you go, "Where's my goddamn fucking son?" I'm freaking out. Oh yeah, he has an air tag. Hang on a second. Boop. Oh, he's literally around the corner, just hanging out.
yeah. The only thing you wish now is like if it had a function, you hit a button or whatever, and it gets like electric shock or something like that. So
Like a taser.
taser, that would be.
That would be
Well,
funny.
get on. Where you at? Get on right now.
Yeah.
So that'd be fun if we had that function. So
Like
yeah.
something I
So I
said
think yeah, yeah.
earlier. I don't know if you guys heard it. Like kids like back at when we used to go out dinner with our parents, we used to get a crayon and a piece of paper, and that's what kept us busy. Now these kids will throw a fit if they don't have the tablets when they're out with dinner with their parents or with
Mm.
family. You see what I'm saying?
But I think it's the same thing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
the same. It's
disrespectful to
it's
your
it's
group.
no, but no, I'm saying if you had the crayon, like I said earlier, like whether we went out to dinner or you were at church or whatever, again, you had the crayon in your coloring book or whatever. It was to keep them distracted. And for a lot of those parents, it wasn't like they were necessarily doing the work to kind of communicate with their kids either. It was a lot of times it was like the adults wanted to have a conversation, and you just wanted to keep the kids occupied.
Okay.
So so I think we tend to sort of overestimate how involved parents were at these different times in the lives of their kids. I mean, we make it like okay, there was like, and I'm not saying people didn't do that, but you like okay, 6 p.m. supper, and everyone sat at the table, and then mom and dad asked you how you were doing. I mean, certainly in my experience, I know very few families that did that. Because again, sometimes dad was working a double shift at the auto plant or something like that, so he wasn't home. You tried to maybe eat with the kids at the table or whatever, but that whole kind of thing that parenting was so much easier. And plus, back then you had a lot more kids. My mom came from 9, and my dad came from 13 kids.
God
So where you
damn.
gonna find? So where you gonna find all that time anyway that you could be so invested in your kid's life or whatever that you would be that involved? So I don't know. Like I said, I don't like to romanticize the past, um, but try to give some context to some of the realities that parenting is going to be hard regardless. And if you're not, certainly, but I think certainly the more vested you're in, the more time you take to be in your kid's life, regardless of the era. I think overall you're going to have a better kid. I think you're going to have a more well-adjusted uh, kid, and your communication certainly as they become adults, then you're going to be more of a resource to them. So when they have their own families and whatnot, then they can kind of
Yeah,
rely on you on.
And this is the reason why I love having you on here because some people like myself, till you said what you said, I was thinking, they're neglecting the kids, yada yada yada. Now the way you put it, the way you broke it down, like, oh, they're not neglecting, they're just trying to keep them busy during dinner. So me, my mom, and whoever trying to have
Yeah.
a conversation.
Yeah.
I never
It's
thought of like that.
that, or hey, go in the room and watch television. So again, we grew up in the television. So you had your television, you had your comic books. I mean, early on, we used to have those those Mattel LED computer games or something like that. It was
Yeah,
just to
the
keep it
handhelds.
distracted. Parents weren't really trying to be all up into. So tell me, Johnny, how was your day? I mean, I don't think I don't think that it uh was even there. It was like, here, go play, go outside, play, get out of here. It
I'll use
wasn't.
my line of work for example here because my next question goes right into it is, work life balance, with family. So my work is crazy always because I'm a chef. I work from 40 hours a week to 80 hours a week. So I'm not gonna be able to sit home and have dinner with my child every day if I had a kid, right?
Mhm.
So like once a week, that's possible. I feel like okay, not every day, but at least once a week you should have a family dinner.
Sure.
So that one, can we agree on that at least?
Like I said, I think it's good anytime you can take in the way that you do it. I don't care if it's a dinner night. I don't care if it's game night. Maybe you guys get the Monopoly board out and play some games or whatever.
Make
Or you
time.
guys watch a movie together. Is anything that kind of gets you guys interacting, or just go on, like I said, everybody now they want to go to, Cabo or DR or something like that. I mean, just go, get in the car and drive somewhere
Hmm.
together and talk and things of that nature. But those are things you can employ anytime. So I don't think it's, and again,
Yes.
back in the day, like I said, I came from, like I said, working class kind of background. So this whole work life balance thing, I don't know if it existed. I mean, if your mother was home, that was one thing. Dad, again, if he was in the house, a lot of times you didn't see him. If you had 5 kids plus, dude was working 16 hours a day. I remember watching a documentary with Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and Magic talked about how much his dad worked 6 days a week, 16-hour days or whatever, 2 jobs, worked at sanitation, one job, and then he worked at the auto plant in another job or whatever. It wasn't like, all these guys now, it's like, oh, my dad never saw my basketball games or whatever. It's like, but he wasn't, because he had all these kids. So I mean, the I kind of push back on some of that. It's like, look, and the mom made sure that the kids understood. It's like, look, your dad's putting a roof over our head. So I think there was a respect. I think what happens now a lot of times is kids getting neglected, and there isn't that parental support, that what
Hmm.
the support from mom or whatever, that again breaks it down.
Right.
Dad was still a hero because your mom explained that dad is doing the things, he's sacrificing a lot so that we can have better, or that you can have better. So you didn't grow up hating your dad because he didn't come to my baseball games or my football games
Like in my
or
case,
whatever.
my father really never came in my karate tournaments. I never hated him for it because I knew he was working,
Exactly.
and I
And
understood that.
that just wasn't a thing until, like, the last 20, 30 years, where it was like every, parents have to be and they got to be at every game. Really?
Yeah,
Every game?
I'll give you my mom for example. She was able to come, but she never understood that. She doesn't understand that stuff.
Right.
Like, so it really was no point for her. Even football, none of them came because my father wasn't a football fan. He worked. My mother had no idea about any about football. She okay, you wear a helmet and you hit people. What's the point of it? That's why I
Yeah.
explained. You don't understand it.
Yeah. And at that age when you're playing those kind of sports, I'll be honest. I mean, I wasn't about uh for me, I was you get to that age where you're trying to in a way separate, if that makes any sense. Like,
Hmm.
your friends, your own identity. You don't necessarily want mom and dad necessarily around. Uh at least in my case, I cared a lot more about being with my teammates and the practices and the road games on the bus and cracking jokes and whatnot. I mean, I was content just being with the guys. I
Right.
mean, hanging out with
Right.
the guys, forming friendships, and playing Uno on the bus and things.
Your
I
age
mean,
area.
yeah, I
The
mean that
factor is
that
that
yeah.
is
Because
the
when you're
the
younger,
relationship
you
you have
say,
with your
I love
parents.
you a lot. You say, I love you, mom. I love you, dad, like 1,000 times. But you grow out of that
Hmm.
eventually. I tell people all the time when I hear the little kids, I said, you better enjoy that because it's going to stop. It's going to
Hmm.
slow down to,
Right.
I
And it
love
doesn't
you,
mean that they
mom.
don't,
And I
but it's
don't
just
love you.
it's
Yeah,
just
they grew.
it's
Yeah,
expressed
they
differently.
grown up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also, you gotta understand
Exactly.
one factor here.
This is
It
good, guys.
depends. It depends on the relationship you and your child have. If you have a relationship like, oh, dad comes to every football game, that's different. But like mine, my father, we had a Saturday night movie night always. First was like every other weekend or one week. It depends on the movie coming out.
Hmm.
But we went together to the movies always. That's our thing. Always been
Yeah.
our thing. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm using that as an example. It depends on what kind of relationship you have with your parent versus a child, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the next follow up question I was going to get into is with the work balance. Now, with it's very hard to find a parents that live together, married, and all that stuff. One is working, one is staying home. That is a
Yeah.
thing
That
that
models.
passed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, is maybe 1 in 100 households he can be able to do that, but most of them are working. If one stays home, she's probably working from home. That's the exception, not a rule, I guess. But most of them are always working. So that's the other issue we're having now too. We don't have the mom who's cleaning, cooking, and taking care of the kids. We have mom, you know, doing X, Y, and Z in the morning. Father's doing this, and trying to balance out their work lives, the kids, and the house.
Mhm.
That's the struggle I think we're having now because with inflation and everything, you need both parents to work.
Well,
Unfortunately,
I don't know. I mean, we grew up. I mean, I wasn't a latchkey kid, but that was certainly a term that was popularized in my era. So latchkey goes back to like the 70s.
I'm not sure what that means. I'm sorry.
Basically, you know,
I
you
was
would
gonna say explain.
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna tell you to explain it because they don't know what that is. I'm pretty
So a
sure.
lot of it was expressed different depending on where you were, but a lot of times like they would stay in the schools like later, like after so school got out like 2:30, 3 o'clock or whatever, but
Okay.
you would stay oftentimes later until one of your parents what got off of work at like at 5 or 6 o'clock to pick you up, or sometimes if you were home, the home situation I think is a little bit more a little more complicated. But again, you'd be dropped off, you'd be there, but you a lot of times you would be home unsupervised for that period of time. But basically, it was in a situation where people would like have to both parents were working, and so either the kid had to stay at the school until someone got them, or there was some sort of supervision in the house. But the bottom line, the parents weren't there. Lady, you might have more context on that, especially on the home situation if you were home.
No, I wasn't one either because my mom, she was in my life like that. I only stayed at home when she had to work, you know what I'm saying? And before, my dad was there. And she would, they tell me, don't answer the door, don't
Right, right, right.
answer the phone, just basically be a mute kid. Didn't nobody know I was at home. I was so good at it, and I stayed at home at a young age. That's how good I was, and I ain't stayed there alone. And I had my sister down the street, you know what I'm saying? I could have went too, but I wanted to go home, you know what I'm saying? So she trusted me, and she did it, and I did. She just tell you right now to this day, yeah, she was a good kid. You didn't even know she was there. Didn't nobody know she was there.
See, I was
Yeah.
one of those kids that my parents left me alone by myself a lot. When they
So
used to
you
go
were
to,
so you were probably a like yeah, so you were like a latchkey kid, but you didn't know it. Did you have your own key to get back in the house with? They
yeah,
gave you a key and you just
I had a
let
key and everything.
I had
let
a
yourself in.
key still, but
Yeah, so
still.
a lot of us were kind of like in that situation, but we didn't. So I take that back. Then I guess in that regard, yeah, in many ways we were latchkey. But the idea of coming to a home and mom is got baked cookies for you when you got in the house and all that kind of stuff. I mean, no, that wasn't you know for a lot of us because again, if you had two parents, both of them had to
Right.
work, and again, and that whole model of okay, the stay at home mom. I don't know, lady in our situation, again, I just don't recall a lot of that where mom was like a stay at home. And again, this is going back to the
If you're a
70s and the
blue
80s.
collar family,
Right.
I don't see it
She
happening
I
wasn't
just
anymore.
did
like the Brady Bunch type of mom.
exactly.
Yeah.
Black women weren't home. I mean, so I mean, they were
It
working.
doesn't matter.
They
I
had a
understand.
motto.
I
They
see. It
had a
doesn't.
motto. We got to do what we have to do type of
Yeah,
shit. And they had to
yeah,
work. So even with dad, they working. And if dad wanted them to stay at home, my auntie stayed at home when they got older. You know what I'm saying? A little older.
yeah,
See, my only pushback with that is I don't care your where you're from, black, green, orange, or white, whatever. I don't think it's that's what it is. I think it is more is if you're a blue collar family, you both parents have to work. It's not even an option sometimes.
Right, right. No, but just a lot of times, just as the narrative, and we've been in this space, for the last few years long enough to know that there's been certainly some narrative spent about back before 1970 or whatever, and the narrative, especially in the black home or whatever, of how things were. And I'm just saying that, yeah, I'm not saying that that didn't exist, but certainly there was several cases where, again, mom and dad, they were both working in the factory or whatever. She was working as a maid, she was working at the factory or whatever, and kids had to, sometimes the older kids had to raise the younger kids because, again, you had a lot more kids back then. And so it wasn't this, lady was saying, it wasn't this leave it to beaver type of thing where, it was,
Okay. I'll use my
uh,
grandmother for example. During, or like, I can't remember if it was before World War II or after. My, I think it was after World War II. My grandfather used to go to work. He was a plumber. My grandmother used to go to work too. She was a maid
yep,
in the palace with the king.
yeah,
And my uncles used to take care of my mom because she was very young at the time. But they used to go, go out and make a few extra dollars for themselves too. Everybody used to work. Like nobody stayed home except my mother because she was too young. And when she was old enough, she started selling shoes and stuff like that. So everybody did something to pitch in.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
because my dad wasn't a six-figure worker. Back then, we didn't really have all that. We just had both parents working and taking care of, the home. That's why I'm glad Mr. B Time 7 came up here, because when I was up here just with me and you, I was trying to explain in a respectful way the difference between black and, and non-black, generations, raisins.
Yeah,
And that has a bit of a factor too because if you think about it, with when, in the way you were raised, it has a way to do it because it falls on which character you're under, a
I'm
blue
sorry,
collar
guys.
or
I'm gonna
some.
drop down. My
All right.
phone going off. My sister calling me.
all
That's
right.
why I cut off.
Good to
This
good
is
to share the
good
panel with you.
though.
Appreciate you
I might
the time. Yes,
can't get back up here, but let me see what is up with my family. It's supposed to down and they all in Chicago out of town. But
gotcha.
this is good, and you should do a part two and add somebody else on the panel too to talk about this because this is dope. And I'm glad Mr. B came up here to shine some light because there is a difference in different cultures in raising kids. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people like before Mr. B came up here, I was telling them how back in the days we grew up, we used to see kids,
Mm-hmm.
on a collar. We would laugh at them
Yeah,
and have the kids be like, "Fuck you, mommy." And we was like, "Oh, I would never do that to my mom."
yeah,
We would be like in a grave site. And
yeah,
I believe when my mom said, "I'm gonna knock the black off of you or knock you in the middle next week," that I got lighter and that I was in the middle next week, just waiting for y'all to catch up to me because I was
yeah,
so dazed. I didn't think my mama lied when she came up with outrageous sayings. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? I believed her.
It's funny you say
Uh,
that because a buddy of mine, when his kid talks back to him, he goes, "Man, I'm gonna slap you so hard you become sperm again." I'm like, "God damn, dude, that is
Wow,
too much."
wow.
and that's a good one.
Yeah, here,
If you become sperm again, he deleted you and you
yeah,
started over.
for
You
real.
better hope he's the same person. But yeah, I'm gonna drop down. But this is dope,
Yeah,
and
maybe me and Paul would
I'm
do
back. Part two.
a generation cross thing again on a gray area, like how
Well, lost for translation. You should bring him on here because he's good at breaking stuff like this down. And
yeah.
Mr. B will tell you he's very good and he'll do the
Indeed.
biblical way. I love how he breaks it down. And take heed. You never know. You might you can invite her because
She
she'll tell
actually
you straight
popped
up.
her head in the beginning of the stream. I sent all the information to everybody except Paul because he's me and him are pretty good open to communication,
Yeah,
but
he
everybody
lives
has.
here.
I'm sorry.
He lives here.
Yeah, pretty much. You're right. But I sent this information to Lost also. I sent a group email to everybody. Our pain was in it. There's some other people I can't remember all of them off my head. Sean was on it. A bunch of guys, and usually if you want to show up, show up. I can't do anything about it if you don't want to show up.
Yeah, Lid has to work in between these lives, and you gotta keep in mind he do lives almost every night. He
Oh
be
yeah.
Yeah,
too drained, so you gotta keep in mind on him out of all
yeah,
of them. And take heed do lives every day too.
yeah.
So
Indeed.
and sometimes twice a day she do her own, and then she be on the BME BMU. So
Okay.
maybe they out there working. So, but I'm gonna talk to both of them and see if they're able to do it, and then they can set up a day when they can do it when they're not available otherwise.
Yeah, Lost has my
That's
email. If not, you have my information. So just reach out to me and we'll set something up. Definitely.
All right,
all right. You have a good
salute
one.
and play the president song real quick.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You probably hate me right now, don't you?
Nah, nah. And Lady Navoda, it's always a pleasure. She's good people, so I
She's great.
appreciate. Yeah, for real.
So let's finish this up really fast. So I think we're gonna call it in a little bit.
Oh,
Call it
sure,
early
sure.
night. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Talk about we talked about supposed to be about independence. Being let them out on their own as a child. Let them do whatever they want. What's your opinion on that?
I'm not saying necessarily do what they want, but I think they need. I think they need to experience some things. Again, the only way you become an adult is you have to be put in situations to be one. And I think certainly the entire subject of parenting, I've been on this for a while now, that we have this things like we're raising children. We need to change that language altogether because I think that's the problem. We raise children, but that's wrong. You raise adults. And a lot of times, and just to contrast some of that old school versus new school, in that old school, again, it was kind of hard to be an adult because everything was dictated to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, again, at least in our community, this might be in the Greek community also, there was no transfer of authority. There was no transfer
Facts.
of power.
Yeah.
So it's like you could be 90 years old and it's like, I'm still your daddy. And I'm like, there should be a time where the kids are supposed to take over. Like we're supposed to be, at least in my age, you're still a little bit younger, but we should get to a point where I could be your dad. So stop looking at me like that. I'm old enough to be your
Fuck
dad. So
you. My dad is 75, asshole.
I'm old. Look, I'll be 55. I'm still old enough to be your dad. So I would have had you at 17, but still, that I'm dad age. So, but the point I'm making is that you have, again, these parents who just think they're parents always. But the idea is we're supposed to get to a certain age where we're supposed to be able to, again, retire, like just out of The Godfather, right? When Vito Corleone, when he gave to Michael, it's like, all right, Michael's the head of the family right now. I'll be the OG. I'll advise on what he needs to do or whatever, but he makes the calls. But we don't raise our children to do that.
So here's the issue I have with that. I'm agreeing. I'm not back. I'm not pushing back. Keep that out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with that is you're 100% right because my mother's doing to me even to this day. She's
Yeah.
75, fighting cancer. She goes, "I'm your mother." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not down on that." I went to her. Like today, I
Mm-hmm.
come home. She's in the we have a little closet storage in our townhouse apartment we have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's going through. I'm like, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I'm reorganizing it." Why? She goes, "Because I want to." There's nothing wrong with it. Because I got bored. And then all of a sudden it goes, "My oxygen is low again." And I'm like, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Because you're picking up boxes you cannot lift. Like, as much as I was trying to let her chill and relax and enjoy whatever life you have, I hate, it's kind of fucked up the way I said it. But
Right.
you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Is just relax and chill. Let me handle the heavy lifting. Let me handle fixing the light bulbs or cooking or whatever. Okay, she enjoys cooking, so I cannot take that away from her. I get it.
Right. Right. Right.
But some things like living in a heavy box, no, it's too much for her. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And she doesn't understand. She still wants to be the independent woman. She still wants to be the mother. She still wants to be head of the family. The mother of the house.
Yeah.
She hit the brakes.
Yeah. I mean, but again, if you got kids who are in their 40s
Mm-hmm.
and you're still trying to have authority over them. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, I think you fail as a parent because again, you should be able to have some sort of comfort or security that, okay, I did my job with my kids. I taught them what they needed to know. They can live independently, and that they've earned, in many ways, earned the right. to do that. Now, if they haven't, then I put that on you. Did you actually raise them to be that? Did you give them everything that they needed in order to be fully functioning adults? And a lot of times they don't. I was talking to some guys today. We were talking about parents who have their kids in sports like 24 365 to the detriment of everything else. Like you got kids graduating high school who've never had a job. Their only job was to play sports, get maybe good grades in school, and play sports. But that's not life.
Mm-hmm.
Can you live independently? Can you move out today and be able to live and support yourself on your own? So again, so I'm like, what are we doing? We're not creating an independent generation. We're creating a dependent one, and then we blame them when we say, "Oh, you guys don't know anything. Well, you didn't teach us anything." He says, "Oh well, guy can't change a flat tire." Well, did you teach him how to change a flat tire? You know what I mean? So
Very good point there. I remember watching on BMU's personal Facebook. He's telling his daughter how to. He's recording the whole thing, how to change a flat tire, and that you should know at least how to change a flat tire, or to change insurance companies, for example, or book a ticket. Most of them don't even know how to do that.
yeah, but did we? Because again, we were so busy with either again our careers or this, whatever things that we were doing that we left those things neglected, or we had them in all these other activities to kind of keep them out of trouble, but we didn't necessarily give them the life lessons that they needed. So again, I go back to that point about you talked about interacting, whether it be at the dinner table, on watching the movies or whatever. Again, like I said, anytime that you take to personally teach and educate and school your kid on certain matters, I think the more adjusted individual that you're going to have. But if you didn't put that work in, but somehow you just expect through osmosis for these kids to get this information or to know how to do things, or if you're always supporting them, again, I think there comes to a point where you have to let your kids fall. I think the main difference, especially when you're talking about a mother and a father, I think they have two very distinctive roles in the life of a child. The mother's role is to protect the children. The father's job is to prepare the children. So, an example that I've oftentimes heard was, let's say if your kids are at the park or whatever on the swing set or the monkey bars, whatever it is, and the kid falls down and starts crying, scrubs it, bumps their knee or something like that. Kid starts crying. The mom's energy is going to be like, "Oh, come here, let me make it better or whatever." The father's going to be like, "All right, shake it off, get back on the ride," because you don't want them to develop a fear of that particular thing. So you have them get back on it. And if they fall off the bike, you have them get back on the bike again. So again, I think that we're not necessarily preparing. We're very much protecting. We're good at protecting, but again, for the world that's out there, we need to do a much better job of preparing. That's the only way they're going to be able to develop that independence, so they don't need us. But I don't know if we're doing a good job overall in that preparation. And some of that is on them as well, because they got to be able to listen. They got to be like, okay, I got my middle one. She wants to move out yesterday, but she hasn't done the best job in terms of, okay, you're not prepared for this yet. You're not ready for this yet. And anytime you try to talk to her about stuff or whatever, she gets all in her emo on stuff. So she's a little bit difficult in that regard. At the end of the day, she's kind of stunting her own growth because she's got a friend of hers who's already got her own apartment already, and they're the same age. They went to high school together. But she says, "Well, all my friend does is just go to the gym and work. That's all she does." Well, doing that allowed her to get her own place, and you're still complaining about being home. So again, if you're not willing to do the work, that sometimes, when you live a life of discipline, yeah, it is going to be about working, saving your money, staying fit, going to the gym, repeat. Yeah, it can get pretty boring. And boredom oftentimes, or just what we would call it consistency, is something that, for a lot of younger people, they have a hard time understanding and grasping. But as long as they're going to continue that, that kind of mindset, yeah, it's going to take them longer to get to where they need to get to. But again, that's part of the preparation. When they're ready, when they want to be prepared, when they're willing to have the discipline to carry things out to their logical end, not get weary and well doing, staying consistent, you know, and just fall in love with the grind, then they'll have success. But I think we need to do a much better job of preparing them for that. And I think a lot of parents I think fumble the ball there.
I agree with a lot of it. The only thing I want to add to this, and we're going to close out after that and get
Sure.
final thoughts, is one thing. I mentioned earlier, is when I was in high school, a lot of kids were having kids at 15 and 16 years old when they're not even prepared, like what you just said. Your daughter's not prepared to move out because she hasn't put her ducks in a row, pretty much.
Correct.
Same thing with kids who were having kids when they were kids. And they were not ready. And I think that's where some of the issues I think we're having now is kids who are having kids way too young. Can you at least agree on that or no?
As always with me, it's going to be a little nuanced.
Please, I welcome it.
I was just talking about this a couple of shows going on BMU's show. The reality is a lot of adults aren't ready to have kids yet. You got folks who are 30 and 35 years old, either still contemplating whether or not they want kids or not, or still struggling with the idea that they want to be a parent. So, yeah, I mean, having kids early, I wouldn't recommend it for anyone. The people who do pull it off, though, are Latinos, because that community is connected. You have the communities, the homes that a lot of these folks live in is multi-generational. So you got the grandparents, the aunties, or whatever. They stick together, and they're able to kind of make it work much better than say.
One thing I will say, I mean, cut you off. One thing I will say about Latino women, they make great fucking mothers. I don't care. Not all of them. There should have those bad apples, obviously. But from the few that I personally know, my best friend's wife, a couple of my coworkers, ex-coworkers, excuse me, one current coworker, a couple of them out there, they make the great mothers. I haven't really. He's like you get those bad apples too, but most of the times there are really good mothers. I'll give them credit.
Yeah,
but again,
they have
cross generation again.
Right, and oftentimes, like I said, go to a mall on any weekend. You'll see the mom might be 17, 18 years old. The mom might be like 35 to 38 years old, still looking got her hot girl look going on, and the grandmother's like right there also. And then oftentimes the father of the child is also there, or the mother's husband, or whatnot. Again, they're connected. They travel together. So again, even though the circumstances might not have been ideal, the idea is at least you have a model kind of to go from. You seeing the mother, the grandmother, is kind of nurturing the baby or has the baby. The child, the father of the child is pushing the cart. But again, everything is together. So I think you can overcome some things as long as you have a community that sticks together. I think you can overcome that. But again, in other people's cases, it's not the ideal. But the reality is, the idea of having children, period, is something that a lot of people, even adults, are struggling with. That's why we have fewer people getting married by choice, people having fewer kids by choice. They'd rather have fur babies than children because they just don't want that responsibility of raising children. So, and this typically happens in more developed societies. The only ones who are really having babies, like tons of them, are still like third world countries. But as a society starts to advance, get more, as more women work outside the home, as more, as just those traditional type of values start to wane, you have fewer marriages, fewer children overall. And I think that trend's going to continue. So yeah, so the teen pregnancy or the teenage mom thing has never been certainly a help, I think, to society, unless you have a strong family network. Like I said, like a lot of Latinos I've seen. But even adults, you got 30, 35-year-old women who are still asking, do I really want to be a mom? or just saying, "Man, if I'm going to be a mom, I got to do it now because if I don't, then my eggs will dry up or whatever, or be risky or whatever." But they're not asking the question: how many young women that you know, like that you've seen? Because I know you worked in schools or whatnot. I'm talking about 15, 16, 17-year-old girls who are like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna have me 3 or 4 kids. When I get married, I'm gonna have 3 or 4 kids." It's not many. It's not many. And guys, when's the last time you heard a guy said, again, a teenage boy talk about, yeah, I want to have 3, 4 kids. I mean, so again,
Only thing
adults are
I would
having
say
this
to
conversation.
this part of the conversation we're having is, with it comes to the Latinos, I also seen when they do get married, they usually stick it out. They don't like
Yeah,
turn.
again, community again.
Yeah.
Community holds it together. You know, everybody comes together on this because it's like, all right, you guys might have put the cart before the horse, but they don't shame the boy. You know what I mean? They bring them in, or the girl for that matter. They bring them in because I think a lot of their mentality also is still of an immigrant mentality that says, look,
Also, I
yeah,
realized one thing, and this is where I gravitate with more Latino people, because they have the family orientation. Family's huge in there in the
yeah,
culture. I think that's
yeah,
why I gravitate, because Greeks are like that too, and I
yeah.
know a few blacks are too. If I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
So,
oh, sure, sure. But I
so
think
that's
but I think even when you talk about Greeks, I'm assuming you mean more Greek Americans.
yes,
Um, Again, there's an immigrant mindset. And I was also just having a different conversation today when my wife and I went to Jamaica a couple years ago, and we realized that, again, the places that we take for granted what we have. So when people come here, that immigrant mindset that's, look, it's us against the world. If we don't go, if we don't stick it out, we're not going to make it. And I think that helps to bind people. Again, adversity, struggle, being a minority, being a stranger helps. Like if we were in, I don't know, if you and I were just transported to Bangladesh right now, just
oh, I'll be
Thanos snap,
so thrown off.
Bangladesh, we would be thick as thieves. It'd be when we're close already. But I'm just saying, it'd be like me and you is like we got to be so tight with everything. Anything that affects you affects me, vice versa, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anywhere you go, we got to stay together because we're the only Americans in this joint. See, and that's the thing too. We talk about gray area and stuff like that. It's in those situations we might be, divided in America, but when you go to another place and you hear an accent, oh, you from New
You
Jersey?
become like
Oh,
one.
he's an American? Oh, you become blood brothers, like overnight,
Yeah.
because again, you have that common struggle, you have that common thing, that it's about survival. It's not just about just existing or whatever, or
Same thing with me,
small.
dude. When I actually meet a guy that I found out he's from Greece, like I'm me, born and raised, I'm like, really? And we became really good friends immediately. Like I know him for years.
Yeah,
Honestly, I didn't. So
yeah.
I get
I
it.
mean, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
You want to throw final thoughts, or do you want to make that your final thought?
final thought. I thought I had something for you as my last question. Um,
Old
but nah,
age.
I mean, parenting. Parenting is hard, but I still believe that ultimately, I think parenting or just having children, I think any child should be desired. I think I mean, we have a lot of debates over certain things about, deletions and things of that nature. I think the best situation is when one decides that they want to have children, children are desired, and you do the things necessary to ensure their well being. I mean, so that's to me, that's like the top level. We start that's the standard. We start there. Everything else is a step down from that. So I think, when it comes to parenting, people have to be honest with themselves. Do you want to be a parent? Are you ready to be a parent? Like I said, when I got married, I was not ready to be a parent. That's the reason why I didn't date women with children. I didn't, because I was not ready mentally or just wanted that. I got married because I wanted to have sex and a lot of it. And so, kids, 3 years. We were married for 3 years, and that was part of the deal. We were going to be married for 3 years before we had kids. Even the conversation about kids. Then one time my wife brought up, hey, maybe we should get started a little earlier or whatever. I said, no, 3 years. We're going to be dinks, double income, no kids. And this is just going to be about us and making sure we were right. Because the one thing also I was concerned about was, do I even want to have kids with her? You know what I mean? Like if our marriage can't handle no kids, it's definitely not going to get better with kids. Kids will not improve your marriage.
And
It'll test.
People have a problem.
It will
Sometimes with
test
kids.
your marriage, but it won't make it better. So you guys have to be right. That's why I recommend to anybody, if you get married with no kids, you guys need to spend at least a couple years without kids. Don't be in such a rush to have a kid right away as soon as your wedding night you get pregnant. No, spend some time, live together. And again, I've seen so many couples where they lived together for years, got married and got divorced shortly thereafter because people think cohabitating in marriage is the same thing. It is not. It's different expectations. It's a different level. So you have to be able to see, can we cohabitate? Are we a good pairing? Are we a good match before we even consider bringing a child into this relationship? And if you're not, then I think you'd be better off. Now, again, kids like us, we grew up in somewhat dysfunctional situations. I think we turned out differently, but that is not a formula for success. Me and you, we got to where we were in spite of our circumstances, not because of them.
Yeah.
So really, I think that's where this conversation, before we even talk about kids or whatnot, people have to do their own evaluation. Am I ready for this? Peter, you're going to have to ask yourself, am I ready to be a father? Straight up, like really all the things that go with that. Getting up at 2 or 3 in the morning when I got to get up and cook that the next day. And especially if my mom's still around, I got to make sure she's taken care of. Are you really ready for this? Is the question. I'm asking rhetorically, but I'm saying that's the question that you and a lot of other guys need to ask themselves. And if you're not ready to be a father, then one, don't date a woman who has kids, and don't get a woman pregnant. Put that sleeve on, do the protection thing, or wait before marriage, or whatever you got to do before you have them.
Or
but do not put
snip too.
Yeah, but that's permanent. So again, if you make that, well, it's not permanent. I understand there's a procedure to do it, but it's not 100%. You know what I'm saying? It's not but do what you have to do to hold off on that until you're really ready for this. At least the desire to have. You'll never be ready, because again, you don't know what kind of kids you're gonna have, the circumstances or whatnot. I mean, nobody could be fully prepared. But do you have the desire to do it? Do you have the faith to say, hey, let's have a child together. Let's be parents. I'm ready. I want to be a dad. I want to be a mom. If you guys can do that, I think that goes a long way. Then everything else is just how to. Everything else is just, getting counsel, wisdom and things of that nature that help you better prepare for the situation. But the first question you have to ask yourself is, again, do I want this? And if you don't want it, don't do it.
And that's okay too. If somebody doesn't want it, it's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So, I don't have too much for final thoughts. So, like, you put everything for us, but I do have one big announcement actually. Our friend over at Pop Culture Warrior. Let me get the page back up and lose it. Yep, here it is. He's doing a giveaway this week. I want to post it in the link right now. Follow the instructions. I actually tagged you, Paul. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw something. I was preoccupied with something else, but I did see something. I'll go back and look at it.
If you into pop culture stuff, pretty simple. It's like his page, share, and subscribe. Very simple steps.
Right.
Tag somebody, and he's going to be making an announcement next week. Some pretty cool stuff, actually. I know a little behind the scenes. I can't say too much on the air.
Right.
But there's some, like, I'll be honest with you. Like, if Paul got what he won, I'm going to like Paul. I'm a karate teacher, right? We're going to do sparring one-on-one. Winner gets the package you got. That's how cool stuff is. He got all this stuff. Some of the stuff is from Comic-Con, all that stuff.
Right.
But you're going to see in the background, he has some cool stuff.
Yeah.
This is a real cool stuff. He loves doing giveaways. So check out his channel. It's free. You sign up for free. If you get picked, great. If you don't, you lose nothing.
Yeah, free
It's
giveaway.
a win-win for everybody at the end of the day. So
Yep.
definitely check it out. For
That's
except
that's
that,
it.
I won't be at the barbershop tomorrow night. I have I have another engagement. So let BMU. I'm out this week.
Yep, will do.
So
Will do.
looking forward to a little. Peonies have some fun once in a while too. And
There
we
you
get
go.
out of the house.
Indeed.
Yeah. Saturday we'll be back. We're talking about Family Matters versus French Prince of Bel-Air. What show is better? It's going to be a debate of the generation. And the week after that, on Saturday, we are talking about, and this is Black David's favorite topic. Let me get the thing up. Chakra versus cheese. Explanation of the mystery energies. I cannot wait to argue him about that one.
Okay.
And you're going to be the referee again on that one, by the way.
All right. Sounds good.
So, except that, I am Grooming Reviews, a.k.a. Ghost of Sparta. He is Paul, the president of the 6Bs, 9Bs.
7.
7.
Shout out to the bold and the beautiful, the beneficent, the benevolent ball brotherhood of the BMU network. You got to make sure you do it right every time. So,
Except that, guys, as always, stay fresh.